Hello everyone, welcome back to the Speak Easy English. I'm Lisa and as always I'm joined by Tommy, the master of all things English.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here, Lisa. Today, we're talking about something that's super important for all of you English learners out there, how to speak advanced English. If you feel like you've mastered the basics and want to take things to the next level, you're in the right place.
Exactly. Now, we all know that speaking English isn't just about knowing grammar and vocabulary, it's about sounding natural, confident, and even a little bit stylish when you speak. And that's exactly what we want to help you with today.
Yes, speaking advanced English isn't about showing off big words. It's about using the right language in the right context. You can sound advanced by speaking clearly and naturally while still keeping it professional. So, let's dive into the first tip.
All right, here's a big one. Vocabulary expansion. If you're still using words like good, big, and fast all the time, it's time to mix it up. Advanced speakers know how to select the right word for the right situation. For example, instead of saying good, you could say excellent, outstanding, or superb. It makes your English sound so much more polished.
And it's not just about replacing simple words with fancier ones. It's about being more specific and precise. Instead of saying big problem, say a significant challenge or a major issue. It sounds more sophisticated, and it shows you're really thinking about what you're saying.
Exactly. And you don't have to learn 100 new words every week. The key is to focus on quality over quantity. Just pick a few new words every week and practice using them in context. You'll naturally start to remember them and use them more often.
That's true. And don't just learn words in isolation. You have to learn them in phrases or sentences because words by themselves don't always show the full picture. For example, you can learn the word elevate, but it's much more useful when you know how to use it in phrases like elevate the conversation or elevate your skills. Then it starts to feel natural.
Definitely. Now, another thing that really helps you sound more advanced is learning idioms and phrasal verbs. These are really common in everyday conversations, especially with native speakers. If you want to sound natural, you have to learn how to use these expressions.
Absolutely. For example, instead of saying I'm really tired, you could say I'm feeling run down. It's just a more interesting and natural way of saying the same thing. Or, instead of saying I don't know what to do, you could say I'm at a loss. Little changes like this make a huge difference.
Yes, and phrasal verbs are super important too. Instead of saying I will call you, you could say I'll ring you up or I'll give you a call. It's much more casual and conversational.
Phrasal verbs can be tricky at first, but the more you hear them, the more you'll start to pick up on them. Like, listen to how native speakers use them. I remember when I first heard the expression, I'm feeling down, I was like, what does that even mean? But now, it feels totally natural.
Right. And to get good at idioms and phrasal verbs, you really have to practice them in real conversations. That's the key, immersion. When you hear them being used in context, it makes it so much easier to remember and use them correctly.
Exactly. Speaking of immersion, one thing I always tell learners is to listen to native speakers as much as possible. Podcasts, movies, YouTube videos, whatever works for you. Listening helps you get used to the rhythm and flow of the language, and you start to notice things like intonation and stress. And
Absolutely. Intonation is huge. If you say something with the wrong intonation, it can completely change the meaning of the sentence. Take the example, you're going to the party tonight. If you say it with a rising intonation, it sounds like a question. But if you say it with a falling intonation, it sounds more like a statement or an expression of surprise, like, you're actually going to the party tonight.
yeah, and that's the beauty of English. It's not just about the words, it's about how you say them. The rise and fall of your voice can show excitement, confusion, or even sarcasm. And the more you practice, the more natural it feels.
Exactly. So when you're listening to native speakers, pay attention to how they say things. It's not just about the words they use, but how they say them. Try mimicking them. You'll pick up on those little details that make your speech sound much more advanced.
Another thing that's key to sounding advanced is pronunciation. Now, I know we've touched on this before, but it's so important. You might know all the right words, but if you don't pronounce them correctly, you won't sound fluent.
Right. And it's not just about saying individual words correctly. It's about how the words fit together in a sentence. English has a lot of connected speech, which means words often blend together. For example, I'm going to often sounds like I'm gonna. If you don't get these little changes, it can make you sound like you're speaking more slowly or awkwardly.
Yeah, I remember when I first heard people say gonna and wanna instead of going to and want to. At first, I thought it was strange, but it's just part of how native speakers talk. If you can catch on to those little shortcuts, your speech will flow more smoothly.
And the best way to improve pronunciation is just practice, practice, practice. Don't just repeat words, you have to practice full sentences. I like to listen to something in English, then try to say it exactly the way I heard it. It's like a mini language workout for your mouth.
Great tip! Another key to advanced English is reading. A lot of people underestimate how much reading can help. When you read, you get to see advanced vocabulary and sentence structures in action. You get a feel for how more complex language works without having to memorize anything.
Exactly. Plus, when you read, you're also expanding your vocabulary and understanding how to use words in different contexts. So, if you're reading a novel and you see the phrase as cold as ice, you're not just learning that specific phrase, you're also learning about figurative language and how to use comparisons.
That's such a great point. And reading doesn't have to be boring. You don't need to read dense academic texts unless that's your thing. You can start with things that interest you. Novels, blogs, or even short articles. The more you read, the more you get exposed to advanced grammar and vocabulary.
Right. And once you feel comfortable with reading, you can start speaking more. But here's the thing. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Everyone makes them, even native speakers. The important thing is to keep speaking and practicing.
Exactly! Confidence is key. Even if you're unsure, just keep talking. The more you practice, the more confident you'll feel. It's like learning to ride a bike. You're going to fall a few times, but with practice, you'll get better and better.
So true. And remember, thinking in English is the ultimate goal. When you can think in English, you don't have to translate in your head anymore. And that's when everything starts to feel much more natural.
That's right. So, let's wrap it up. If you want to speak advanced English, focus on expanding your vocabulary, mastering idioms and phrasal verbs, improving your pronunciation, and practicing as much as you can.
Yes. And don't forget to listen, read, and immerse yourself in English every day. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel. And before you know it, you'll be speaking like a pro.
Exactly! Thanks for listening to this episode of Speak Easy English. We hope these tips help you level up your English. Until next time, keep speaking, keep learning, and keep having fun with it.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. See you next time, everyone. Keep practicing.